You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borg. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Happy May Day. Yep, first day of May, 2026. A Friday. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. The market is telling you something very important right now, and it's not subtle. Money still wants in. We have stocks pushing higher again late this morning with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ leaning into fresh records, and the Dow tagging along in positive territory. The big driver is the same thing that usually matters most in the end: earnings and cash flow, not the daily panic machine. Apple came in with a stronger quarter. The stock is catching a bid, and that is helping pull the broader tape higher. The other big piece is oil. Crude is backing off this morning after another sign that back-channel talks around the Mideast may still be alive. That matters because when oil cools off, a lot of the market's inflation fear cools off right along with it. So you have a clean combination today: better earnings news, lower energy pressure, and investors willing to keep buying strength. Now, underneath that, there's still a political fight worth watching. Trump signed the DHS funding bill, which ends one battle, but absolutely does not end the border fight, because ICE and CBP funding are still headed for their own showdown. At the same time, Republicans are already showing their cards on election integrity with the Save America Act, and you can see 2028 already starting to peek over the horizon, with Vance and Cruz making their Iowa moves. So the story today is pretty simple. Markets are rewarding execution. Politics is moving back towards the core conservative issues of border, election law, and institutional accountability. And if you want to understand this tape, stop listening to the noise and watch what money is actually doing. Money is voting, and this morning it is voting for earnings, lower oil, and less fear. Earlier in the week, I talked to you about the metals, gold and silver, and why they had sold off so sharply. If you missed that, you can always go back and catch it on the YouTube channel. I think I did that 2 days ago. Might have been 3. Anyway, metals have rebounded. Just a few days ago, gold and silver were under pressure because the market was rewarding a stronger dollar, higher yields, and fewer rate cut hopes. In plain English, yield was beating fear, and that pushed the metals down. Now we're seeing the other side of that move. Gold and silver are turning back up because some of that pressure has eased. The dollar has softened, Oil has backed off its hottest levels, and the market is no longer leaning quite so hard into the higher for longer rate story. That gives metals room to breathe. And just as important, the bigger reasons to own them never went away. Gold is still gold. It's still a monetary hedge. It's still a store of value, and still a place investors look when confidence in policy, currencies, or geopolitics start to wobble. Silver's even more interesting because it's riding two horses at once. It gets the monetary lift from gold, but it also has that industrial story tied to electrification, infrastructure, electronics, and AI-related demand. So this rebound tells me the earlier sell-off was pressure, not a broken thesis. The bull case got bent, but it did not get buried. So just remember, the sell-off was about pressure. This rebound we're seeing today is about relief, and relief can run a lot farther when the bigger story is still alive. And it is alive. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. The first broadcast is our live training room. So to get in there, you got to be a member or taking the 1-week free trial. This broadcast, on the other hand, is open to the public. Everybody, everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways to join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down the page to where it says Noon Broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. What will happen going forward is every trading day you'll get an email about an hour before this broadcast starts. In the email, there's a link, so at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is just click the link in the email, and it automatically logs you into our platform. The benefit of doing it that way is it immediately gives you access to the question box so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there'll be days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, but you still want to join live. And some days you'll be busy, so you can't join live, but you want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. That's the Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 3,000 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. And if you're new to our neck of the woods, it's a great way to get to know who we really are. Thanks to the power of YouTube, you can scroll back 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, even more, a lot more. Obviously, you're not going to watch them all, nor do you need to, but it is a great resource to have at your fingertips because it allows you to see how we've evolved over all these years, day by day by day. youtube.com/CFRN. On the left side of the screen is our schedule for each afternoon broadcast. Michael's back in the saddle today, so he will be joining us at the top of the hour for a recap of what happened this morning in the live training room, and then do a little live trading as time and the markets permit. We'll start where we always do on this broadcast with our daily devotional, but we're going to do something a little different today, and I mentioned this yesterday. I told you that we would dig a little deeper into the Logic 247 alerts. I always give you the recap, but today we're going to take a look at all of the individual alerts that make up that recap. So we probably won't have a lot of time for news today, but I'm sure you get your fill of news anyway. So let's get into the devotional. Our topic that we've been on now for about 2 weeks, so we got a couple more weeks to go. Everyday faith. Today's scripture is Lamentations 3, verses 22 through 23 from the NIV translation. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Again, Lamentations 3, verses 22 through 23. Growth is rarely linear. Some days you feel strong in your faith. His presence is near. You can almost feel his breath on the back of your neck. But then there's the other days. The days you feel weak and God seems far away. Some prayers feel clear, but others feel unfinished. At times it even seems as though one step forward is followed by 2 steps back. But mercy remains a constant. It renews daily. If this week revealed weakness in your life, mercy meets you right there. If this week exposed weight that you're carrying, let his mercy lighten your load. If anything this week has unsettled you, let mercy hold you fast. And remember, you're right on schedule. Wherever you are right now in your life is exactly where God wants you to be. You're being formed. If you feel you have stepped off the path or forged your own way, well, stop. Knock it off. Make a new beginning, a fresh start in following and trusting that Jesus is about his work in you, whether you see it or not. Jesus is able to hold you, and he promised that he won't let you go. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for your mercy that meets us fresh every morning. Father, we belong to you, and you are well able to keep us in your grasp. We trust with all of our hearts that you are working things out for our good and for your glory. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, amen. Amen and happy Friday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. We'll start here in the U.S. with the cash markets or the indices. And then after that, we're going to jump to the Logic 247 recap, and then we're going to actually look at the Logic 247 alerts, every one that was issued so far this week. There's a lot of them, so it's going to take us a minute. Currently, the Dow's up 6 points. The Nasdaq's up 296. That's almost 1.25%. S&P 500 is up 48, and the Russell 2000 is up 11. In the commodity basket, crude oil down $3.96, trading 101.11 last. That's a drop of 3.75%. Gold is up $27.20, trading 46.56 last. Silver's up $2.60, trading 76.63 last. That's a gain of 3.5%. And a reminder, when the price of silver moves $1, that's worth $5,000 per contract traded. And again, At the moment, silver is up $2.57 on the day. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei gained 228 points. The Shanghai gained 4. The Hang Seng lost 335, over 1.25%. In the European markets at the close, FTSE down 14. The DAX up 337, almost 1.5%. And the CAC up 42. So we had a mixed day in Asia. It was a mixed day for the UK. But at the moment, it is a green Radio Friday here in the US of A. My only concern, the Russell's positive only by 6. Dow's only positive by 15. Now both the NQ and the S&P are well into the green. But the institutional traders between yesterday and today have booked an awful lot of profit. Well, they've made a lot of profit. My question is whether they're going to book that profit this afternoon as we go into the close. Keep in mind the last day of the month and the first day of the month are often the biggest days of the month, because that's when hedge fund managers rebalance their portfolios. So we'll see if the institutional traders, the ones who actually move price, are willing to carry risk over the weekend with all that's happening in the world. My guess is they're going to probably book their profits. So what does that mean to you? You're going to see lower prices. Doesn't mean the rally's over. It just means they're being cautious. Okay. Normally we head to the news, but today we're going to go straight to Logic 247. If we have time, we'll cover the news later. But I promised you I would do this yesterday, and so I'm going to actually do it. We're currently in week 404 of Logic 247. That's our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. It's not just E-minis, it's also crude, gold, and silver. So far this week, we've issued a total of 71 alerts. And honestly, I don't plan on issuing any more today. One never triggered. And when Valerie did the recap this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, we were still waiting on the outcome of 12. So that gave us 58 actionable alerts, of which 5 or 9% would have been stopped out based simply on market structure. A simple process we teach all of our passport holders. The purpose of the logic alerts is to help you learn how to read the chart. If your goal is to trade for a living, you gotta learn to read the chart. It's like if you're going to be a doctor, you gotta learn to read the textbooks, the medical journals. But of course, a chart has no words, no sentences, no paragraphs, and no punctuation. It's a different kind of language. And to succeed, you gotta learn to read it, like a newspaper or a good mystery novel. Every logic alert has an entry price, long or short, an initial target designed to help you get your goal for the day, in most cases additional targets, and then a final trade to target. So if you never actually trade a logic alert, still use them for the purpose intended, to learn to read the chart. So, another great week by the grace of God. So let's actually look at the logic alerts. Normally we spend most of our time covering the CTAs. The logic alerts are proprietary, but I'm going to show them to you today because I said I would. Okay, So let me scroll my way back to the beginning of the week and kind of break it down for you. A lot of scrolling because we had 70 something alerts this week. We're in week 404, Kentucky Derbies this weekend. That's why there's little ponies. Last week, we ended up with 74 alerts issued, 15 never triggered, 59 actionable alerts, 4 stop outs. So we were at 7% last week, so last week was even better. Today could get better depending on if any of the ones that Valerie said have not triggered, maybe they've triggered by the time she finalizes the recap for the week. Okay. So, Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when the markets open for the week. Now, I was late getting back from my trip. So, that says 5:38 on my chart. However, if you are on the East Coast, it says 8:38 because I'm on Pacific time. Arizona doesn't do daylight savings time. So 8 months out of the year, I'm on Pacific time, and 4 months out of the year, I'm on Mountain Standard Time. Yes, I know it's very confusing, but what are you going to do? So Sunday night, I didn't get started until 5:38 my time. I normally get started at 3 o'clock my time because that's 6 p.m. on the East Coast, and that's when the Globex markets open for the week. So regardless of what time I started Sunday night, my first Logic 247 alert was on the ES. B means buy. T means initial target. PR means potential resistance. And WTZ means weekly trading zone. Keep in mind, on Sunday nights, all of the alerts are based on the previous week's zones because the new weekly trading zones don't come out till Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once I publish the new zones for the week, then all the alerts are based on the new zones. So what I had told our members was to, now keep in mind, these alerts come out well ahead of them actually triggering. Anywhere from 20 minutes before they trigger to sometimes a day, okay? So when a logic alert comes out, it's not like you got to trip over your feet and get to your computer to place the trade. In the live training room where we use the range charts, yes, you do have to be on your toes. But because I do the logic alerts based off a 30-minute chart, it's a little more laid back. It's a slower pace. So my suggestion was to buy 71.94 with an initial target of 71.96. That's 2 points. That's enough to give you your goal for the day. I then said, by looking at the chart, looking left, that we had potential resistance at 7,200. And then the weekly trading zone above was 7205/7206. When Valerie first did the recap, we had hit 7202 and a quarter. And then shortly thereafter, we hit 7208 and a half. So this logic alert told you to get long at 71.94. If all you were looking for was to get your goal for the day, you would have gotten out here. But if you looked at the chart and said, hey, this thing's got room to run, from 94 to 7208, that would be 6, 8. So this alert had 14 and a half points in it. And a thumbs up means, well, you know what a thumbs up means. Now, I started doing something a few months ago. Every time I put out a alert, I do both a long and a short. Now you're probably wondering, is that because you don't know which way the market's going? Exactly. I'll let you in on a secret. Nobody does. No man, no machine, no indicator, no oscillator, no algorithm, no bot, not nothing, not no way, not no how, or nowhere. Okay? So, now, this is where it's going to get really interesting for you. I put this out, and then right after that, I put out a short on the ES. Because as we know, markets go up and markets go down, right? So at the same time, well, 2 minutes apart. Now remember, you're looking at Pacific time. Whatever the Telegram app that we use here reads the clock on your computer. So if you're on the East Coast, that says 8:56. All right. Okay. All right. So along with saying to be long at 71.94, I also said if price drops to 71.65, you want to get short. Then the initial target, 71.63. That gets you your goal for the day. And then I said there's potential support at 71.58. There's potential support at 71.51. Potential support at 71.47. And the low of that move was 71.47 and a half. So from 65 to 47, off the top of my head, I think, or call it 48. 65 to 48, that 18 points? I think so. Remember, you only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. And then the Dow. I said to sell the Dow at 49,160. Initial target 49,140. Potential support at 49,040. And then the weekly trading zone. See, on a short, the final trade to target is always going to be the zone below. And on a long, it's always going to be the zone above. We made it down to 48,996. So that means we took out the weekly trading zone and dropped, gosh, what, another 100 points? All right, yeah, that was a huge trade. Now that was the long on the Dow, but I followed that right up, or that was a short on the Dow. I followed it right up with a long. See, we wanted to sell 49,160 if price got there, but we wanted to buy 49,400 if price got there, and it did. The initial target was 49,420, and the weekly zone above was 49,445/450. And price made it up to 49,422. So we took out the initial target by 2 points. Now, when you see PT, all right, that means partial to the initial target, partial part of the way, 60% or better. So the idea here was to buy on the Russell 2,800, initial target 2,802. It hit 2,802 to the tick. So if that's where your target was, some got filled, some didn't get filled on the exit, because price has to trade through 2,802 to ensure that everybody in the queue gets filled. That's why it's a PT, and that's why there's this explanation. So some people got the full 2 points, some didn't. On the NQ, long on the NQ at 27,519. Initial target 529. Then potential resistance at 592. And then potential resistance at 757, and then the zone overhead was 834/835. So how far did we make it? We made it to 542 and a half. So that would have been we exceeded the initial target. Now, the initial target on every logic alert is equivalent to $100 per contract traded. With the exception of the NQ, the initial target is worth $200. This is 10 points at $20 a point. That's $200 per contract traded. The reason I do that is because the NQ is so volatile. You need a larger stop. Now remember, this is based off 30-minute charts. So you're going to need a larger stop than what you typically use in the live training room with the range charts. Bigger targets, larger profits require additional risk. The next one was to sell the NQ. 27,333 to 323, but we only got to 325. So that was a PT. But it was, you hear Michael use the term break even or better. Okay. So this went 60% of the way to the initial target. Our first stop out came on crude. The idea here was to sell 94.60 with an initial target of 94.50. And obviously, it didn't make it all the way to 94.50. So when you see the red X, that means it got stopped out. This is, oh, and this part I didn't mention. This is alert number 22,118. Now this one was to buy crude at 97.70 to 97.80. It made it to 97.81. Here's gold. Sell gold at 47.05. Initial target 47.04. We only made it down to 47.03.3. But still more than enough to get your goal for the day. The other side of gold was to buy 47.41. So we were looking to sell 47.05 and or buy 47.41. Obviously, you could have done both because they both got a thumbs up. If you buy 47.41 at 47.42, that's your goal for the day. And then I saw potential resistance at 46. We only got up to 44.8. On silver, I said to sell 74.50. Initial target. You only need 2 pennies in silver to get your goal for the day. Potential support at 74.19, potential support at 74.15, and that move dropped to 74.15 half. So you do the math. From 50 minus 15, just call it 35. Hey Siri, what's 35 divided by 2?
35 divided by 2 is 17.5.
All right, so about $1,700 per contract traded. Now here's a long on silver. Buy 76.38. Initial target 76.40. Potential resistance 76.48. And then potential resistance at 76.90. It only got to 76.55 and a half. Now that's at the time Valerie was doing the recap. It may have very well later on gone beyond that. But no, I don't think any of these numbers came into play this week. Now, here was the short on the Russell. Because when I got done, I only had 13 alerts. So I shorted the Russell at 27.82, initial target 27.80, potential support at 78, potential support at 75, then the weekly trading zone, the final trade to target, 27.71/27.72. And the low of that move was the zone. Remember, when price drops to a zone, we expect support until proven otherwise. So all of that was done Sunday night. Now, for a lot of traders, that might be a whole week's worth of trading. That's what we did Sunday night. Just on the logic alert. That doesn't include the CTAs. That doesn't include anything else. All right, so let's get to, lose my place. I need to get back down to the short on the Russell. That was where I left off. And then I'll have to pick up the pace so we have time to get through all of these. Yeah, there was a short on the Russell. All right, so that was all Sunday night. And then Monday afternoon, I said on the ES, buy 72.09. Initial target 72.11. Final trade to target 72.14/15, the weekly zone. It actually ran up to 72.18. That's 9 points. Only takes 2 points to get your goal for the day. At the same time that I said consider buying 72.09, I also said consider selling 71.95. And we dropped all the way to 71.88.5. On the Dow, I said buy 49,445 to 49,465. You need 20 points in the Dow to get your goal for the day. The Dow doesn't do ticks, it just does points. Potential resistance at 520, we made it up to 513. So from 445 to 513, that would be 55, 65 points at $5 a point per contract traded. Then the short on the Dow, that was a PT, which is better than break even. Long on the Russell, from 2803 to 2805. The zone was at 2810/11. We got up to 2809.5. So we missed it by half a point. And then I said sell the Russell, 2789 to 2787. The final trade to target was way down at 2778. The market actually dropped to 2777. So we spiked the zone a little bit. So from 89 to 79, that's 10 points on the Russell. So we got the full Monty on that one. Next, alert number 22,130 was a call to buy the NQ at 27,466. Initial target 476. Potential resistance at 499. Then potential resistance at 536. We made it up to 512. So that would have been 30, 40, about $800 per contract traded. NQ pays $20 a point. At the same time, I said, here's where you want to short the NQ. See, the whole idea behind giving you a long and a trade and a short, okay, at the same time, is because I want you to learn to plan your work ahead. Kind of like in the live training room when Michael will say something like, well, we need 2 up closes followed by a down close to have a valid trade entry. Okay, what I'm showing you is wherever price is on the NQ at the time I did this. I don't care if price goes up or goes down. There's going to be a valid trade if price gets here or price gets here. Now on this one, we ran from 466 all the way up to 512. When the short triggered, because markets go up and then they go down, right? Sell 376. 366 gave you your goal for the day. Potential support at 360. Potential support at 348. Potential support at 336. And then the trading zone was 23/24, and we dropped to 320. So from 76 to 320, that's 56 points at $20 a point per contract traded. This is along on crude oil. We were buying 96.90 and we ran up to 97.55. Here we're shorting crude at 95.80. Valerie mistyped that. I think that's supposed to say 95.20. We're all human. All right, here's a long on gold by 47.06. Initial target 47.07. Weekly zone was 47.10/47.11, and the swing high was 47.10.3, right in the zone. So then I also said at the same time, if price starts dropping on gold, so 46.89 to 46.88, that's your goal for the day. And then the zone below was 82/83. We dropped all the way down to 79.7. So from 89 to 79, that's $1,000 per contract traded. Here the idea was to buy silver at 75.82, and we made it up to 76.15, which would have been right in here. This one never triggered. Now we're rolling into the 28th, new day. On the ES by 71.78, and that was just a 2-point trade because we were almost at the weekly zone. And we made it, now the zone is 71.80/81. We got to 71.80.75, so right in the zone. And a short on the ES, sell 71.60, initial target 71.58. The zone was at 56.57, but we dropped all the way to 52.5. On the Dow by 450, we made it all the way up to 626. Buying 450, we ran to 626. So that's 550, it's 100, is that 170 points? $5 a point. A short on the Dow. See, when you look at a chart and you look at price, everybody's trying to figure out, is it going to go up or is it going to go down? What I'm trying to teach you is don't worry about that, because the market's going to do what it's going to do. And if you start that guessing game of, well, I'm sure it's going to go up, and you put, you bet the farm on it going up, well, what if it goes down? So what I'm giving you is both sides of the equation. I don't care if it goes up or goes down. I've got to trade in either direction. I just have to be able to read the chart. And that's the purpose of these logic alerts, to teach you how to read the chart. Let's say when this alert came out, that was a long on the Russell, which did fine. Made it right up to the zone where we thought it would. And a short on the Russell. So what you would do, even if you didn't trade this, but you're trying to learn to read the chart, you would go to this day and this time, okay? You would draw a line where I said to enter. Draw a line at the target. Draw a line at the potential support. Then look left and figure out why I wanted to enter at that price. And the initial target, again, that's just to get your goal for the day. But this potential support, when you draw that line, you should be able to look left and say, oh, okay, I see that, why that should have been potential support or could be potential support. We ripped through the zone and got all the way down to 52.7. So that was 10 points on the Russell. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. So that's a $500 per contract trade. Long on the NQ at 282, and we made it up to 294. So that's 12 NQ points at $20 a point per contract. Short on the NQ at 27,116, and it looks like we dropped 13 points at $20 a point. This is a PT on crude. Here we're buying crude at $100.75, and it made it all the way up to $108.49. That's almost $8,000 per contract traded. When the price of crude moves $1, that's worth $1,000 per contract traded. When gold moves $1, that's worth $100 per contract traded. When silver moves $1, that's worth $5,000 per contract traded. So we bought $100.75, and it ran up $8. That's $8,000 per contract traded. There's a short on crude, a PT, a short on gold, a long on gold, short on silver, a long on silver. We were buying 73.53 and it ran up to 73.81. 2 pennies is $100. $1 is $5,000. This one, no trigger. There's a long on the ES. We were looking to get to 71.80/81, and we got to 83.25. So we exceeded our expectations. Short on the Dow, selling 760. We got all the way down to 680. That's 80 points. It's $400 per contract traded. Now, at the same time, I gave you a short on the Dow. I also gave you a long. This way, you don't have to worry about which way price goes. Just whichever way it goes, there's the trade laid out for you. But don't just trade them. Make sure you understand why I've established those prices, those potential resistances, those potential supports. So on this one, we were buying 110. Oh my goodness, it ran up 300 points. $20 a point. From 110, it ran all the way up to 448. Stop out on the Russell. Now, if you're using just the range chart, there would have been a valid trade here, but again, these alerts are all created on the 30-minute chart. This is the long on the Russell. We were buying 27.60 and we ran up to 27.65.8. So we didn't quite get to the first resistance, but we did get almost 6 points, and you only need 2 points to get your goal for the day on the Russell. In Q, I guess this is one we're still waiting on. This was a long on gold, crude, buying 108.85, and we ran up to 109.14. Now here's a short on crude. We were selling 105.35, and we dropped to 103.50. That's almost, we didn't quite get to this, but from 105.35 down to 103.50, that's almost $2,000 per contract traded. Still waiting on the outcome of this one. There's a long on gold, buying 45.76. We only made it up to 77.6. Still $160 per contract traded. This is where I roll silver midweek to the end contract, and that one we're still waiting on. There's a long on silver, buying 72.84, and it ran up to 73.47. So that's about $2,500 per contract traded. And now April 30th, that would be yesterday, buy the ES, and we made it beyond our target. We hit 72.40.75. Here's a long on the NQ. We exceeded the target. We made it up to 27.604. Long on the ES, buying 72.56 to 72.58. We made it all the way up to 72.63. So that would have been just below this potential resistance. So from 56 to 63. What is that? 7 points? 7 points, yeah. Short on the ES, still waiting. Long on the Dow, still waiting. These are all last night, I guess. Short on the Dow, still waiting, because everything's running up today. Here's a long on the Russell. I think she just hasn't got to that one yet. I don't know. Stop out on the NQ. Short on the NQ. Stop out on crude. And then here's a long on gold. Ran up 1.5. The short on gold dropped almost 2 points, or $200 per contract traded. Silver, buying 74.85. It ran up to 75.04. 2 pennies is $100. And here's a short on silver that hasn't triggered. And that's it. That's all of them. That is the entire week. Now, let's go back to the recap. So now this should make a little more sense. This week, since the market, since I got home Sunday night, up through the last alert I published last night, 71 alerts, one ever triggered, still waiting on the outcome of 12, 58 actionable alerts, 5 stop outs, which is 9%. Now what we've averaged over 7.5 years is 20% or less getting stopped out on a weekly basis. Again, if you never actually trade a logic alert, use them for the purpose intended, to learn how to read the chart. All right, now, Logic 247, after 404 weeks, remember that many years before we introduced Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. They're different in a lot of different ways. The logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m., 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is a night session, and vice versa. But the CTAs are different in a lot of ways. But most important for you right now is to understand they don't come out around the clock like the logic alerts. They're posted as a static report, typically 5 minutes ahead of the Globex open. What that means is all of our traders had all of these targets last night, 5 minutes before the market opened. S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. As we go through the individual charts, you're going to see these targets drawn out. Just remember, our traders had that information 5 minutes before the market opened. And next Thursday night in the members only workshop, I will be teaching how I do the logic alerts. So be there live if you can, if you remember. If I want you to be there live so you can ask questions. But if you aren't able to make it live, that's 8 p.m. next Thursday night. You'll be able to watch it in the Weekly Trading Zone channel in Telegram. Okay. With all that said, let's go to the daily chart of where we always start, the S&P 500 Emini futures, the bellwether. There's a new all-time historic high, which is 7,300.75. I couldn't get this exactly on it, so just so you know, 7,300.75. When it turned to red and falling yesterday, I thought for sure we were going to get that pullback to the BBC, but we didn't. But look how far we are off the high of the session. I'm telling you, institutional traders may start unwinding their positions this afternoon as we head into the close and an uncertain weekend. Now, when I say price always reverts to the mean, doesn't matter what you trade or how you trade it, price reverts to the mean. It just is. It's like gravity. Now, in our case, the mean is this green line right here. It's called the BBC. Stands for bull, bear, cross. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and expect lower prices. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish and expect higher prices. The pullback to the BBC, whether it comes from below or above, holds more often than it doesn't. So we had a leg up and then a retracement. The pullback held for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Now you're saying, well, how is that a hold? Because the candles are physically touching the green line. So then we get another leg and a retracement. The pullback holds. A leg and a retracement. The pullback holds. Now, it holds more often than not, but eventually it'll trade through. How do I know if it's going to hold or not? You don't. Even this right here. See, we're below the BBC. So we had a leg and a retracement. And that retracement held for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days. Every one of those candles, is, even these, they're physically touching the BBC. In order to change course, you need this. You need a candle to open and close above or below the BBC. So this candle right here is what officially said, now we're bearish. And we got to pull back to the BBC on March 5th. And then we didn't touch it again till April 6th. That's somewhat unusual. And now, April 6th, we find ourselves at May 1st, and we're a long way from pulling back to the BBC. But on the smaller time frames, you'll see what I mean about the pullback holding more often than not. All alerts are created on the 30-minute chart. There's nothing magic about 30 minutes, just the time frame I chose years ago. If it's not broke, leave it alone. So I did. The vertical lines separate today, Friday. Here's Thursday. I scroll back, you can see Wednesday. The horizontal lines are the weekly trading zones. We've published these zones for our members for over 16 years. They come out Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. When price drops to a zone, we expect support till proven otherwise. When price rallies up to a zone, we expect resistance till proven otherwise. Drops to a zone, support until proven otherwise. It's pretty simple. Basically, price goes from zone to zone to zone to zone to zone to zone. So remember, last night, all of our traders had these targets 5 minutes before the market opened. And in the very first 30-minute candle, we hit the long target and then some. We opened at 56 and ran all the way up to 63.5. And then we retraced, leg retracement. We found support at the black step line. But when blue and climbing gets directly above price, that becomes potential resistance because it's probably on its way to becoming red and falling. Blue and climbing is bullish, red and falling is bearish. So price pulled back to the BBC, and guess what? The pullback held. And then we got a leg and a retracement, and the pullback held. And then we got a leg and a retracement, and so far the pullback is holding. Like I said, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Now there's still one more zone overhead. I don't think we'll see it this week. But if we open positive Sunday night, these zones will still be in play. The new zones won't come out until Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. The Dow. The Dow not quite as bullish. Now look at this huge move we had yesterday on the Dow. I mean, that's just incredible. Here's where we opened last night. Price ran into blue and climbing, red and falling. We pulled back to the BBC and the pullback held, and that sent us right up to the long target. And then a little pullback, and then we hit the target again. Now we just traded below this weekly zone, so we very well, and we're about to get a bearish cross here. That's when the red line goes below the green line. When that happens, price is probably going to drop substantially. Now, obviously, I expect this zone to be potential support, but I want you to look over here. Look at the black step line, how it tried to cross back to the left side of blue and climbing, but couldn't. Put your crosshair right there. 49,655. That is possibly or potentially good support on this move down. Maybe good enough for a bounce. But unless something changes, price is always trying to get to a weekly trading zone. Doesn't always make it, but it's always trying. If you're above the 30-minute BBC, it's trying to get to the zone overhead. If price is below the 30-minute BBC, it's trying to get to the zone below. The Russell. Here's where we opened last night. And we consolidated along the BBC for many hours. Then we pulled back and it held, and then we got a leg and a retracement. And even though we spiked the BBC all the way down to the zone published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, the pullback held and sent us right up to the long target. Resistance always sends the market looking for support, which it found at the BBC and the zone. It's called support times 2. Support always sends the market looking for resistance, which it found at the long target. Resistance will send the market looking for support, which it found at the BBC and the zone. You gotta admit, that's pretty simple, right? Now this low that we spiked here, I want you to look right here. You see where the black step line crossed blue and climbing? Now, typically that calls for price to retrace to the BBC. This was a little bit unusual, but that becomes an important price, important area right there. That's basically where this low came in. Buyers came in early, right before we hit that spot. And in one 30-minute candle, we went from zone down to the zone, all the way back up to the zone. Resistance, resistance, support, It looks like we're going to try to hit the long target again. But keep in mind, you've got a high, a lower high, and a lower high in Q. Here's where we opened last night, this candle right here. We dropped to the zone and found support. Support sent us looking for resistance. Blue and climbing on its way to becoming red and falling. Took us down. We got below the BBC. But you see how red and falling got directly below price? When that happens, it becomes potential support because it's on its way to becoming blue and climbing. Remember, red and falling is bearish, blue and climbing is bullish. And we ripped right through the long target. And there's no sense in me looking left from here because, if I'm not mistaken, that's an all-time historic high. Crude. Here's where we opened last night. We consolidated along the BBC. And then right ahead of the London Open, we hit the long target at 106.60. Remember, a $1 move in crude is worth $1,000 per contract traded. This candle right here opened at 106.04 and ran up to 106.65. So about $600 per contract traded in that 130-minute candle. This candle, on the other hand, opened at 105.11 and ran up to 106.12. That's that green candle right there. That's $1,000 per contract traded. Okay, so we get a bearish cross. Price comes down, hits the short target, consolidates, and then drops to the zone below. Now we spike the zone. Okay, now, but we ended up closing back above the zone. So the drop to the zone held, we just spiked it. But look at the low and then come over here. You see right there where red turned to blue? Now this is Friday, this is Thursday, this is Wednesday. On Wednesday, right here, blue turned to red. And then we had a bullish cross right here. That's where I would have expected support, but it spiked it a little bit down to this area. When you have a bullish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good support. It's about 9 out of 10. Worst case, 8 out of 10. So support has now sent the market looking for resistance, which it found right there so far. This candle, you see how you got a wick sticking down, and on this candle you got a wick sticking up. You put your crosshair right between the two. Look at that. That's market structure. Gold. Here's where we opened last night, consolidated at the zone, and then dropped to the short target. Now, what's the short target based off of? Yesterday's bullish cross. See where the blue line crossed above the green line? Okay. Led to an extended move. The first time price revisited that area. Good support. You see it? If you can just learn to use that one thing, you do just fine. Support now has to send the market looking for resistance, right? So we get through the BBC, but then the pullback holds. And then we get a leg that takes us all the way up to the long target, and then some. Now we've been consolidating just below the long target. The black step line is in the process of crossing blue and climbing. So it would come as no surprise if right now price started to come back to the BBC. Price always reverts to the mean. And the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Now let's take a look. This high right here that we spiked to. Look over here. you got a candle with a wick sticking down, and you can't really see it. There's a wick sticking up, buried behind those indicators. But you just put your crosshair right between the two, and that is the exact high of today. So you tell me, is it worth learning to read the chart or not? Ball's in your court. Silver. This was the open last night on silver. We opened at 74.32 and ran up to 75.79. $75.79, so that's 79 cents. That's what is that, $1.50? So that's about $7,500 per contract traded. If somebody else wants to do the math for me, that's fine. Oh, sorry, I didn't see this question in the question box. Jeff says, why did you choose that candle for support? That's what I'm still working on, and I don't remember now which chart you were looking at. It was the chart before the Russell. Okay, I always go ES, Dow, Russell, NQ, crude, gold, silver. So if it was the chart before the Russell, I'm sorry I didn't see your question earlier. So the Dow. Are you asking me about the short target, Jeff? Or the long target? Tell me what you're asking me. Why did I choose that candle for support? I don't know which candle you're referring to. You're working on explaining it? Okay, because Michael's going to be here in a minute. When he's done, I will come back. Oh, okay. Jeff is working on a question, and I'm going to answer that after you get done.
All right.
And we will dissect silver when I come back. So when we come back, we're going to answer Jeff's question. We're going to dissect silver, and then I'm going to wrap up the week with our good word for the day. Right now, Michael is going to give us a recap of what happened in the live training room this morning and do some live trading as time and the markets permit. And then I'll be back.
All right. Here we go. And bring it over here. And I updated the web page, and I created the link for next week, and all that stuff.
Looks good.
Excellent. Here we go. Here we go. This one. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, the first day of May 2026. Wow. First day of May 2026. Now, if you've not taken a free trial with us and you want to, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button right here. So there's no credit card required for this trial. When you click on that, it will bring you to this registration page where all that we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. Okay, your name, oops, fix a couple of those. Your name, your email, and your phone number. Down here at the bottom, give us your TradeView login ID. Okay, hit register. Once you hit register, well, then we'll know you took the free trial, and we'll be able to get your indicators indicating for you on your desktop. Now, we had a mediocre start of the month. Let's see how we start last month. Twice as good as we did this month. Well, anyway, we had a mediocre start of the month. The last couple of weeks have just been that way. But we did have a fair amount of trades today. We had 29 trades. So that was good. Anyway, this is how it worked out. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you have to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Made 76 ticks on the NQ, 21 ticks on the Russell, -6 on the YM, and -5 on the ES. I posted 392.5 on the morning session. And today it took 4 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day at that point. We're up $130 a contract, or $1,300 with 10. And it took 29 trades with 5 stop outs. Now, it seemed like the stop outs were 2 on the ES and 2 on the NQ. No, I'm sorry, 2 on the ES, 1 on the YM, and 1 on the NQ. So the stop outs were kind of big. Anytime you get a stop out on the ES, that's a big one. Anytime you get a stop out on the NQ, that's also a big one. Regardless, 82.76% of our trades were break even or better, and we ended with 392.5 on the day. So our average on the month is 392.5, and on the year, looks like those carried down okay. Okay, these numbers right here on the year are okay. And I don't know if these carried down properly. I think they might have. 1,300 times this should be a 5. 1,300 times 5. Okay, it did carry down properly. Okay, so it looks like these numbers carried down okay too. How about this one? But anyway, if you follow the 24/20 blueprint, so far this year, you would have had to work 9.68 hours. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. 9.68 hours. And if you quit trading when you got the goal for the day, oh, this is the number that's off right here. That number's way off. Yeah, that number's off. These are off. If you quit trading when you get the goal for the day and you had all the same exact slippages I had and all that stuff, well, you would be averaging right about $2,700 an hour. Okay, just about $2,700 an hour. You'd be up about $25,745, something like that. But I know Michael R. was telling me there's some things in here that I need to fix, and I will get them fixed this weekend. I'm not going to do it right now. All right, so that is what we did this morning and where we are on the day, on the month, and on the year. And we'll go fill in the stuff we need to fill in down here for right now. This is going to be an 88. And this will be an 88. What was that number? Oh no. Oh no. I don't think it was any number. This will be an 88 right here. Okay, and carry that down to here, and that down to here, and we'll be all set when we get to that part. All right, I guess I can leave it that way. The trades. Let's get into the trades. Now, the Russell today, we didn't have any stop outs on the Russell. We actually had a pretty good day on the Russell. And let's just see if we have any trades going right now, right at the moment. I don't see any, but no, nothing right at the moment. So we'll start out with the Russell. We had, scroll all the way back, here we go. Our first trade on the Russell didn't actually hit the mid-band, I can see that now, but our first trade on the Russell, we picked up 14 ticks. Second trade picked up 20, so we're at 34. Then we picked up 12, and we're at 46. Then we stopped out minus 25. That brought us down to 21 ticks on the Russell, and that's where we ended it. Okay, not a lot happening there right now. And the YM, our very first trade of the day was this one. No, that wasn't. Our very first trade of the day was this one on the YM. And that is where we got the high for the day. We were at 14 ticks on the YM at that point. Then we stopped out right there. And that put us at minus 11. And then we picked up 5 ticks here. That got us to minus 6. And that was it on the YM. Okay. And the ES now. On the ES, we had, just gonna check something. Here we go. On the ES, this right here was our first trade on the ES, and we picked up 4 ticks on that. Then we stopped out. That put us at minus 6. Then we picked up 6 ticks. That got us to 0, a break even. Then 1 tick. That got us to 1. Then we stopped out. That put us at minus 9. Then we stopped out again. That put us at minus 19. On this one, we picked up 8 ticks. That got us to minus 11. And then here we picked up 6 ticks. That got us to minus 5. And that is where we stopped trading on the morning session. So right now, an up close on the ES right now would be a long trade. So we just need an up close on that to have a long trade. This is kind of an ugly trade right here. I don't know, Jimmy, are you out here watching right now? Anybody that was in there this morning, that was watching this morning? This right here is an ugly spot to retrace on this. We're getting in a little bit of chop right here. And it's a trade if it gives an up close, but it's not a pretty one. Okay, we're not really trending. We're in some chop right there. Okay, and there it is. That's valid trade right there. I'm in it. I'll show it to you in a minute. I don't think it's going anywhere fast. On the upside, it does have a number up at 72.78. Way up above us at 72.78. Okay, so on the NQ, we started out right here on the NQ, we got a +3 on that. Then we got a +23 on that, and it goes up to 26. Then, and there's something missing in here. We went from 3 to 26 to 36, and then we stopped out. So there's a 10 tick trade missing in here somewhere. Then we stopped out on that. That brought us back down to 0. We picked up 10 there and 11 there to get us to 21. Then we went up to 49, so there's another trade missing. We went up to 49, and then we stopped out, went down to 13. And then we went to 34. And from 34, we went up to 46. And 46 to 56, and 56 to 76 is how we ended it. I don't know where that last trade is. This might have been the 76 right there. But anyway, that's how it all wrapped up for us. And the ES trade just gave me a break even, right? I know I didn't bring it over and show it to you, but I will show you the fill on it right here. I filled exactly where I should have filled, and I got a break even exactly where I should have gotten a break even. There they are, 73.75, 73.75. Okay. Sneeze fit. Okay, so it's 1:12 now. We have 18 minutes left in here to trade. We had one break even so far. This is not a trade. This is not a trade. And this is not going to be a trade. So we'll go out here and we'll put our 1 and a 0 and 18 there. All right. And today is 5/1. And what time is it? 1:30, 1:13, 1:13. So we'll just wait. We'll just wait right now and see if we get anything. Anything at all in here. That was our one break even trade. And things are pretty quiet. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Jeff, I know you had that question for Dwayne, but he will answer that when he comes back in 15 minutes. Nate, did you have any questions? All right, for those of you guys who didn't hear this morning, next week, I will be here. Well, I'll be in the morning session, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But I will be out of the afternoon session Thursday and out of the whole day on Friday next week. Okay. look at what I did here. Looks like we could get something if you get a pullback on either one of these. The ES trade that I did take to give me a break even is working out a little bit here. And I believe there was a number up above. It is 72.78 was the number I was looking at right here. 72.78, that's the number I mentioned a little while ago. Okay. Understanding the ticks. Okay, did you want to meet with me, Nate? Okay. Are you in Telegram yet? Excellent. My ID in Telegram is at trading_I_Q. Send me a message. It's at trading_I_Q. Trading IQ. Send me a message there. Okay. Got it. Okay, I just put you in my contact group too. Yeah. I mean, you can have them individually with me or Dwayne. You can have them both at the same time. It might be better to do it individually because we might confuse you if we start saying things. They won't conflict, but there'll be two different ways of saying the same thing, and it might just be confusing. Pretty strong. No, I don't. Jeff, if I take one that doesn't hit, it's because I couldn't see it right. Now, there are times where I can't really see if it hit the mid-band, but I think it did. And it turns out it's like a tick away. All right, so this did not go, well, it did go full cycle down, but it's going to go all the way back up. This is flipped to YBR. This did not go full cycle back down, so it's 123. We got 7 minutes left. It doesn't look like we're going to get any trades in here right now, the way things are going. But we'll stick it out and see what happens. Okay, that's what we're here for. But I do get that, yeah. Nothing's pulling back. Switch out that plan for the weekend. I found out last night we're going to have a guest Sunday to Monday. Jada's high school friends.
So what's shaking?
Not much.
Not much, huh?
No, not much at all. I've had one break-even trade.
This is where patience comes in, traders.
It is.
When you don't get a setup per these rules or whatever rules you've set for yourself, you have a tendency to just take a, well, here, let me just take a stab at it. And that taking a stab at it will usually cost you money.
Whatever you risk.
Yeah, it'll cost you whatever you risk. Exactly.
That's it.
So
Jeff has just typed in there. Sometimes he gets too antsy.
yeah,
You can't be antsy.
You've gotta just gotta develop that patience and self-control. And see, while we give you guys all the knowledge that we have and all the tools that have been, fine-tuned over the years, the things we can't give you are patience and self-control and all that kind of stuff. That's where your inner self has to rise to the occasion and say, I don't care how long it takes, I'm going to wait for the proper setup. And here's where sometimes you just do something to be doing something and it goes in your favor. That's called negative reinforcement. You did the wrong thing and got the right results. On the other hand, you'll wait 2 hours for a proper, perfect trade setup and you get stopped out. And you're like, whoa, man, I wasted all that time waiting for the thing to set up. And then okay, well, if trading were easy, everybody would do it. Bottom line. So negative reinforcement's a big issue. Now, to take away half of that equation, stick to the rules. Only take the trades that have the proper setup. Because if you just take a wild shot at it and it happens to go in your favor, that's going to implant in your subconscious that you've got some supernatural ability and blah, blah, blah. So I'm just saying that to everybody.
Most of the time, no trade is the right trade.
The biggest battle is between your ears.
Yep. Literally, we sit and wait 90% of the time.
Yep.
And we're trading maybe 10% of the time, maybe less than that.
Yep. Dow looks like it's getting ready to flip green.
It does look like it's almost there. It's almost
We'll
there.
have green across the board, but we still won't have any trade setups at the moment. We still got 2 minutes.
Yeah, we still got a couple of minutes, minute and a half now. I don't think we're going to get anything. It's not looking like it. We got the one break-even trade on the yes, so in today's result, we have $0. $0. 18 minutes of trading. All it did was bring our daily average down a little bit. Oh, that's what was in here? The daily average. Okay, well, I can put that back in. That I accidentally deleted it. Equals that divided by that. There it is. That's what was in there. All right. So just by adding another day, it brought it down just a hair. But zero stop out. Did I put zero stop out there?
I don't see anything happening in the next minute, so if you want to call it, that's...
Yeah, why don't we just wrap it up? All right. So I did do the registration and everything, got all that set up. The new password and all that stuff. So if you haven't taken a free trial, go here to mytradingiq.com. Click on this right here. No credit card required. It's going to bring it to this registration page. Has all the next week's stuff. All we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. Once you give us all that, make sure you give us your TradingView login ID down here at the bottom. Give us that. We get the indicators indicating for you on your desktop. And we'll get you into the room with us so you can watch us and learn and participate in real live trading. And we have it.
For those of you that did not tune in at the beginning of the broadcast, I went through all 70 whatever Logic 247 alerts. Normally I just dissect the CTAs, but I dissected every Logic 247 alert. So if you missed the first part of the broadcast over the weekend, you might want to go to youtube.com/CFRN and see what we did the first hour of the broadcast. And keep in mind, next Thursday night, the members only workshop is going to be focused on how the Logic 247 alerts are created. So,
all right.
Well, so now if you're ready
to back out.
Yeah, go ahead, say it.
Fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, it's Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready.
Yep. Okie doke. Recap of the morning session.
All right. Today it took 4 minutes and 2 trades to get to $1,300
per contract.
Per contract. With 10 contracts.
With 10 contracts. Okay, so
130 per contract. 1,300 with 10.
There you go. Well, good job.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Jeff, we're going to attempt. Now, guys, Jeff had a question earlier, and he sent me a screenshot in Telegram, but I'm still not sure that I fully understand his question. So what we're going to do is, before we dissect silver, we're going to go back to the Dow, because that's where he had the question. So I've got the question box out, Jeff, so I can see as soon as you type something in. And I'm just going to try to do what I did and said earlier so that we can figure out where your question is. This was the opening candle last night. This was the beginning of the Friday session last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're above the BBC, so we expect higher prices. But we had blue and climbing directly above price, which turned to red and falling. And that pushed us back to the BBC, and the pullback held. The pullback held, and we ran right up to the long target. And then we just consolidated there for hours. Then we got below the BBC. Now on this one, we spiked the BBC, but we ended up closing the 30-minute candle right back up at the long target. And then right here, we had an open and close below the BBC. So that tells us we're probably headed for the zone below. And sure enough, we consolidated at the zone. Now we're attempting to retrace back to the BBC. So now, Jeff, I will give you time to try to direct me, because your question about why did I pick a certain candle for support, something in my brain is just not clicking. So take your time to write out your question. I'll go do silver, and then by then you'll probably have your question typed out. Okay. So here's silver, guys. On the open last night, this was incredible. Remember, a $1 move in silver is worth $5,000 per contract traded. Silver opened last night at 74.31. And in 30 minutes ran to 75.79. Opened at 74.31, ran to 75.79. So that's about $7,500 per contract traded in that one candle. Now, if you just got out at the target, that's fine. But you only need 2 pennies to get your goal for the day. So, resistance sends a market looking for support, which it just found right here. It went up and we tagged the long target again and again. And then we got below the zone and the BBC. And this low right here, buyers came in early. I would have expected them to potentially come in here at this low. At the low where they actually came in, well, that is the low of that candle right there. So, but the black step line crossed red and falling, and price pulled back to the BBC. And the pullback holds more often than not, but eventually it trades through, and here's an example of it trading through. When you have this much blue and climbing chasing price, it increases the potential for price to trade through the BBC. So we ran up and we hit the long target again, pulled back to the black step line, and then we ran zone to zone from 75.21 to 76.89. Now that's 75, that's $1.60. So that's like $8,500 per contract traded. I'm just doing that off the top of my head. But we found resistance at the zone, even though we spiked up. Resistance at the zone. The step line has now crossed blue and climbing. So we would expect silver to retrace back to the BBC, because price always reverts to the mean. No matter what you trade, no matter how you trade it, price always reverts to the mean. It's just how markets work. See that red candle forming? Now, There is potential support there. There is potential support there. But I suspect price will overcome those obstacles. And hopefully when it gets back here to the BBC, we get a nice bounce going into the close. That would make me a happy camper all weekend long. Okay, Jeff, let me look at your question. I may have just been looking at the wrong candle, but my question is, how did you calculate the support for the CTA? The short target, right here where the black step line crossed blue and climbing. I'm assuming that's what you mean by support. See, right there where the black step line crossed blue and climbing, that creates an important price, important area. So that's why I put the short target there. And the long target, because we were in uncharted territory. Where did I put that? I put it at 50040. What's this high? Oh, there we go. There's the answer right there. This was April 21st. So we're getting ready to open here. So I look here, I got nothing. So this is Thursday, this is Wednesday, this is Tuesday. I got to keep going and going and going and going. And then finally, way back on April 21st, I've got a high here at 50043. And I either round down or round up. You'll notice that the down numbers always end with a 0 or a 5. So we did spike up to 501.38, but that's how I came up with the long target. I looked left to see up in this area, up in the nosebleed section, where the last time price found resistance. And it was right here. The actual high is 50043, so I rounded it down to 50040. And this one candle right here opened at 966 and ran up 130 points to the target. And I guess it went a little further. Does that answer your question at all? I feel like I failed you somehow. But just keep writing down your questions, keep asking. And this goes for all of you, everybody that's a member. You can send me a question in Telegram anytime, along with a screenshot or a chart. Why'd you do this? Why'd you say that? Or what do you think about this? I'm looking at this and this looks like a good setup to me. What do you think? And if I'm at my desk, I'll give you feedback right away. If I'm not at my desk, when I get back to my desk, I will give you feedback right away. It does? Okay, great, Jeff. Glad to hear that. All right, now we covered every market in granular detail, as we do every day. So if you missed any part of today's broadcast, 10 minutes after I sign off, go to youtube.com/CFRN, and you can watch today's broadcast in its entirety. You can fast forward to any part. You can replay a certain part over and over and over again. This is always fun when the price does this. Zone to zone, back to the zone, back to the zone, back to the zone, back to the zone. And then in one candle, we go zone to zone. And then in 3 candles, we go zone to zone. That is the highest weekly trading zone for the Dow. And let me explain. When I publish the zones, I'm not saying we're going to go to the highest zone. I'm not saying we're going to go to the lowest zone. What the zones do is they create a playing field, if you will, for the entire week. And every line along the way, like this is 755/760. I used to put both lines in, but I like to keep my chart as clean as I can. So I just put the one line. But when you use the automatic thing in TradingView to install the zones for you, it's going to do both lines. Okay. Right now, because we got support here, we're expecting a retracement because price always reverts to the mean. The Russell, we hit the long target once, twice, thrice. In Q, crude oil, we hit the long target basically to the tick, and we consolidated at the short target for an hour and a half, but we found support at the zone. We spiked it right down to this area here. Okay, now I would have expected support right here at the bullish cross, but we spiked it a little bit. When you have a bullish cross, that's when the blue line gets above the green line and leads to an extended move. The first time price revisits that area will almost always be good support. And it's usually to the tick, but we spiked it just a little bit. We spiked it down to right here where red turned to blue, to the tick. Support sends the market looking for resistance. So we got basically kind of a triple top happening right here. And this wick sticking up on this candle and the wick sticking down on that candle, you put your crosshair right in between them, and that gives you this double top right here. So price is still trying to get back to the BBC. And the fact that red and falling has curled up below price, that tells you it's getting ready to turn to blue and climbing, probably on the next candle. And that's when you should see price shoot right up to the BBC. Last look at gold. It's doing its retracement. And silver is probably getting ready to do its retracement. If it only drops to the BBC, that's a fine day. And this is unusual, okay? Yesterday we ran into red and falling because we've been consolidating sideways. And then today, or when we reopened last night, it turned back to blue and climbing. So now the ES has a new all-time historic high at 7,300.75 against a backdrop of war, a political left gone berserk. I could go on and on. You should have heard Hakeem Jeffries talking about the Supreme Court last night. That man should be drawn and quartered and then sent back to wherever he came from. I'm sorry. Sometimes I can't keep it in. To become a member, go to My Trading IQ. No, stop. Scratch that. See, I get myself upset. And what does it get me? Nothing. Except upset. If you want to become a member, email Valerie, support@cfrn.net, or call her at 949-42-EMINI. You'll get her voicemail if you call, probably. So just leave a message, she'll call you back. Just let her know you're interested in becoming a member. She will email you all the information you need to become a member. Once you become a member or passport holder, you get 2 hours of live training every trading day. Now that's important. There's 1 million people out there waiting to sell you indicators, oscillators, and promises of great riches. But how many people have you stumbled across that are actually willing to spend 2 hours with you every trading day teaching you how to trade? On top of the 2 hours of group training every day, private one-on-one mentoring. No extra charge. All you got to do is ask. The strategy you learn, the indicators you use as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETF, it doesn't matter. price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. Honestly, it's just how markets work. But everybody else tries to obfuscate that very simple fact so they can sell you more crap. And when that crap doesn't work, well, that's because you need the pro version. Oh, and pretty soon those 16 digits on your credit card, you've got them memorized. Stop buying that garbage and learn how to trade. If you don't learn from us, learn from somebody. If you can find somebody else, I don't know that you can. There's a whole lot of empty promises out there. We've been around since 2005. Michael and I have been together since 2006. There's very few places out there that have stood the test of time. And I give God all the glory for it. It's by His grace, not by anything I've done. Because you've already figured out I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. So, along with 2 hours of live training, private one-on-one mentoring, the strategy, the indicators, you get the Logic 247 alerts around the clock, so you learn to read a chart. You get the concierge trade alerts 5 minutes ahead of the open, most evenings. Every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, you get the weekly trading zones. Every Thursday night, you're able to attend the members-only workshop. And you get the golden keys that open all the private channels in Telegram. Everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. And I'm telling you guys, if you're not following the discussion, if you're a member and you're not following the discussion group in Telegram, man, you're missing so much. One of our members, Stefan, he really gives back to the community in a big way. He does beautiful charts every day explaining, what he's trying to show you. If you're not taking advantage of that, it's all part of the package. Now, he doesn't get paid to do that. But he understands this very, very scriptural concept. To whom much is given, much is required. And so that's his way of giving back to the community and saying, hey, thanks, guys. I struggled for a long time to become a profitable trader. Then I found you guys, and now I'm profitable. And so he gives back by sharing his annotated charts. Plus, there's probably 20, 30,000 posts in that channel. Now, you're not going to scroll back that far, but if you're not following it on a daily basis, you'll up your game 100% if you just start following that thread. Read every post Stefan puts out and other people. Okay. All right. So let's wrap the week up with our good word for the day. We did part 1 yesterday, so we do part 2 today. Having a spirit-controlled tongue. The power of life and death is in the tongue. James 3:6 says the tongue is a flame of fire. The Bible says a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire, and a tongue is a flame of fire. People living in hot climates know the danger of ravaging bushfires driven by desert winds and can readily identify with these words. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. A single spark from a match has started many massive fires, spreading faster and farther than we might ever imagine. That kind of fire destroys homes and businesses worth millions of dollars, leaving a scorched landscape and devastated lives. Just look at the Pacific Palisades. Similarly, how many reputations have been ruined by a careless word? The impact of our words spreads far and fast, especially in the digital age. A word tweeted anywhere can be retweeted all over the world in seconds. Like a fire, that word can get out of control and do irreparable damage. Hence, James wrote, "No man can tame the tongue." The good news is God can. The fruit of the Spirit is self-control. Galatians 5:22. The Holy Spirit can take a tongue that peddles gossip and turn it into one that brings glory to God. He can take a tongue that spews bitterness and turn it into one that speaks blessing. Gossip is saying something behind someone's back that you would never say to that person's face. Flattery is saying something to someone's face that you would never say behind the person's back. And both are wrong. So let's join the psalmist in praying this. Psalm 19:14. May the words of my mouth be pleasing in your sight. Amen. That's our good word for today and for the week. We'll do it all again starting this Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when we open for business. Thanks for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.